Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and one of the things we've been doing this year is we've been working our way through some horror franchises because they've got new entries coming out in October. One of those franchises, unfortunately, is Saw. But, Tim,
Yes.
this is the finish line. This is, we've
God.
done this, we have done all 7 of them, because this is going to be Saw, the final chapter.
I knew there was something about today. When I woke up, the sun was shining just a little bit brighter. The air tasted a little crisper. And
This was the only one I hadn't seen before, and it's amazing that I stopped right before. It's like, you would think I'd go, oh, I may as well just watch it, it's the last one, and I never did. I was just kind of like, well, whatever, until now for this show, because we were working through them, so we could do the new one next month.
I feel like I might have seen pieces of it at some point if it was on TV or someone else was watching it, because some of it did seem familiar, but also I could be confusing it with any of the other movies, because I feel like I cannot tell any of them apart.
You saw pieces of it, you say, like jigsaw puzzle pieces?
Mayhap. Mayhap. So,
I'm just going to give you a spoiler warning right now. Full spoilers for Saw, the final chapter, which from this point on I am going to refer to as Saw 7, because that's what they should have called it. Those assholes. How dare they?
yep.
Or even Saw 7, the final chapter. I'd be okay with that. But Saw 7. So,
Was it also Saw 3D, or was that another
yeah,
one?
no, it was Saw 3D, the final chapter,
God damn
when it came out. Yeah. But if you're watching it in 2D, to take the 3D away, it's just Saw, the final chapter. So, once again, we have like an opening. Now, it's not the very first thing, but after a little teasing thing during the credits, which we see Dr. Gordon from the first movie actually crawling out of the room, out the bathroom, and he actually cauterizes his wound on like a hot steam pipe. Because of course he does. So he's back at it.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Thank God, a character I actually remember, and not just some bullshit like one of 50 cops that
True.
like all interchangeable.
And to be fair, like, I mean, if I'm going to give the movie credit, is if they wanted, if they wanted to feel like a conclusion, they wanted to feel like this big epic finale. It does make sense to bring someone back from the first movie who we've not seen since then.
Sure.
You know, it's, you know, if you want to give it a bookend kind of feel, it makes sense. Like, I do have some mild compliments to pay to this movie on an idea level, but we've done that a few times where we've said, oh no, the idea here's fine, it's just everything else that's terrible. But we have our opening game, and this one's in public. It's in a, which actually honestly made it the most pleasing to look at game that we've ever had, because it wasn't in this dark dingy room where it's going for this like music video looking sort of, it was like broad daylight, and it was like light was pouring in, and it looked sharp.
I'll say, you know, this opening actually gave me a little bit of hope. Like it actually made me think, oh, hey, this is different and kind
Also-
of cool for this series.
And also, I actually kind of liked the game to a point, because
Yeah.
so basically, it's, you've got two guys. So they're in like, it's almost like a shop storefront window, right? It's just a glass box, and you've got guys at the either end of this contraption, and they're both tied to it, and they've got like buzzsaws in front of them, and then there's like a giant buzzsaw in the middle that's going up the way, and there's a girl who is like, you know, on like a platform on upside down, and she's going to come down towards it. And the game is basically, they can only save the girl if one of the guys pushes the other two saws towards the other guy. So someone has to die. One of the guys has to die, or the girl has to die. And you quickly realise that this girl's been like cheating on these two guys with each other. Like they're both boyfriends of some kind. But what I kind of liked about this whole game is that it actually played with the psychology of what was going on, because the girl is like telling one guy who's kind of winning, oh, I love you, like you're the one I love, like you know, we're meant to be together, and this motivates him to keep fighting. But then the tide kind of changes, and then the other guy starts winning, and she immediately changes and says, no, I love you, like you're the one. And it's like, wait a minute, she's playing both sides. She's the one who should die. She's been the bitch. She's being two-faced. And sure enough, the guys kind of realize that, and they're just kind of, hey, she's not worth dying for, right? yeah, let's just let her die. And they just let her die. And I'm like, you know what? On a pure psychological level, that is the most I've enjoyed one of these games in a long time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And then you also have that added kind of wild cardness of it where there are people on the outside trying to help. Like, I think at first everyone looks at it and they're kind of like, oh, is this like a weird like art installation or something? But then they quickly realize like, oh no, they're in real danger. And then yeah, people trying to break through and stuff to no avail. But I found it made that a little more interesting.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, it's probably like one of the least offensive like reasons to die. Like, I don't know if any of these people did something worse.
Oh, sure, yeah. They don't deserve to be in this situation. But just in the terms of like movie characters, the girl ends up being the villain because she's the one who tries to play them. And because of that, because one of them has to die, it's like, no, obviously it's her. And it's actually really good that the two guys just kind of realize, wait a minute, she's been two-faced here. Let's just, like, we're clearly the better two people. Let's just let her die. And sure enough, but much like the last movie, this one doesn't connect to anything later on, which by the way, someone commented on our Saw 6 review and gave us a little bit of information as to why it didn't connect to anything else in the movie. Now I didn't actually, now apparently you can quickly check this, I never did though, but apparently according to the comment, the reason why it doesn't connect to the rest of the movie in Saw 6, and maybe the same is true here, I don't know, but in Saw 6, the two actors who were in that scene were winners of a competition from MTV to be in Saw 6. So that's why their scene doesn't have any connections to really anything else, is because it's just on its own, because they were competition winners, which is not a good excuse to have a scene in your movie. It's because you wanted a competition on MTV.
Okay, interesting.
Just put it out there. Okay, and then of course after this we get the title, and then we get the obligatory, here's how the last one ended. Let's remind you of how this went down.
Yeah.
So we have Hoffman, who's in the trap, he got free, his face got ripped off though, so he goes and stitches that up. We see him like sewing his face back together, but he's like pissed at Jigsaw's wife. He's like, nah, I want that bitch dead now. That's his goal for the rest of the movie. That's his thing. Which honestly makes the actual game kind of feel irrelevant, other than the fact that Jigsaw himself wanted it to happen because Anyway, so we'll talk about the game. I think we'll tackle the game first, and then we'll get to the rest of it, because the rest of it's actually kind of the more important, which is actually probably my biggest problem with some of these later Saw movies, is that the main game almost feels just kind of incidental. It's just there because we need a game, and the actual plot of the movie is actually the rest of it.
Yeah, but then it's weird though, because the main game is usually what I end up enjoying more. So it seems like, yeah, it doesn't matter as much, but it is what I'm more interested in.
Yeah. So
I honestly, I do not care about Hoffman or any of these cops or the 900th, Jigsaw flashback. It's too much.
Hey, to be fair, in this, for some reason, the final one is the first one where they decide, no, we're not going to overload Jigsaw. I mean, there's a lot of flashbacks, but Jigsaw only appears in one flashback this entire movie.
Just the one?
And he's wearing a backwards baseball cap, which really made me laugh when I saw him. He looked ridiculous. I've never seen Jigsaw dressed like that.
Wait, did he? Yeah, there's that scene, which, yeah, that was kind of weird. And he doesn't show up again when he's talking to towards the end when you see him with Gordon.
He's on a videotape, yeah. Well, I suppose technically that's a flashback, I suppose, as well. But I wasn't thinking of that one because it's a videotape.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, we only really see him proper once.
Yeah, but
and I have no idea when that was supposed to take place, that scene.
Recently.
Because I assumed that this author guy
soon after Saw 5.
Okay, because I kind of just assumed.
Wait, actually, which one you talking about? Where he goes to see the author?
Yeah, because I assumed the author that wrote the book about surviving Jigsaw. I kind of assumed that he was writing the book after Jigsaw had already died. Didn't feel like that? Like
no, it was before. So here's the thing, right? So the main victim of the game is this guy who's written a book about surviving a Jigsaw trap, and he's on TV, he's doing interviews and all that. And here's the problem, right? So the plot of this movie is that he's actually lying. He was never a victim of Jigsaw, and that's why Jigsaw wants him to go in a game, because he's lying about it, and he's using it for gain and money and whatnot. And Here's the problem with this though, is that when we first cut to him and he's doing this interview and he's talking about like being in a trap, there's been so many victims and I've forgotten all of them that I genuinely wasn't sure if he was someone that I was supposed to recognise or if he was like a new guy who they were sort of retconning into being in traps. Because it's the same, you see him at a support group meeting for all these survivors and we recognise the one girl from Saw 6 who cut off her arm, and then everyone else it's like, well, am I supposed to remember these people? Like, were they in other movies? But then they show you like a flashback of one of them like hanging above like all these like lawnmowers that are like spinning. And I'm like, oh no, we never had that. Okay, this is a new person who's been retconned into like, you know, already have survived.
So I guess my problem with the timeline, and I mean, I don't know if they ever really say how long it takes place, but it feels like the entire reign of Jigsaw like felt like it only lasts like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks or so.
Oh no, it's months, because remember in the first movie when they questioned Gordon about as if he's Jigsaw, like that was months before the bathroom stuff.
Okay, even if it was like a couple of months, I feel like it would take at least a year to write a book.
Oh, probably, but I guess that's what they're saying, that this has been lasting a lot longer than that.
I don't know. Either way, it's stupid. It's all stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
dumb movie.
So he, of course, is going to go through the game, and it's very much like Saw 3 and 6, where he's going through room to room, and people who have helped him, you know, make money off of Jigsaw and stuff, they're all in these traps. He has to try and save them, and he fails miserably every single time, which is different from 6, because in 6, the guy did actually manage to save a few people.
I feel like, the guy in 6, like, I don't know. Well, I guess this guy was trying to. Yeah, he's trying to save his wife, but
he was trying, but it did not quite work. And he has all these different things where he's guiding the guy who's blindfolded across all these planks, and he's trying to like pull out a key out of this woman's stomach to unlock her from things, and just all these different things. And he has to, because I will say it's a nice idea that the one he does at the end to try and save his wife is actually what he lied about. It's, no, this is the thing you said you'd done on TV. Now you have to do it. I'm like, okay, that's a nice little idea, but basically he fails and the wife burns alive, and it's like just this awful looking thing, and it's like, okay, well, that had other than having a game going on that distracts the cops, that was basically the purpose of the whole thing. There's another game though. There's like another little game that's also there to kind of distract the cops with, oddly enough, I did not know he was in this, but Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, who, you know, just committed suicide like in the last couple of months. He's in this movie. He's the guy in the car that's glued to the seat.
Oh, I had no idea that was him.
Yeah, I recognized him. I'm like, wait, is that Chester from Linkin Park? And I looked it up to double check, and I'm like, oh, it is him. This is weird.
Did he also win a contest?
I don't think so. And it's this elaborate game where he's going to end up killing, like, basically he's just a racist. Like, him and his friends are all racists, and that's why the trap's on them. And it's this ridiculous over the top thing where the car's going to go and like drag someone's face off, crush someone else, and then drive through someone else, and then he's going to fly out the car. Very elaborate whole thing, and that's like a thing that happens in the movie. But
he basically like rips himself off the seat.
He gets his arm off, and he gets the other arm off, but he can't quite get the back off, and everyone dies.
And then, to be fair, the like special effects on that scene weren't too bad. Like when he's like, pull himself up and you see the skin kind of stretching and tearing and stuff. Like I was like, oh,
yeah, I will say
didn't look bad.
There was moments of it, but I will say this movie seemed to calm down a little bit on the erratic editing.
Oh yeah, I think well, we didn't really mention like our kind of overall thoughts at the beginning, but.
Oh, sorry, Tim. Let me do it. Tim, how do you feel about Saw: The Final Chapter? It feels like pointless to ask at this point with these movies.
Well, here's the thing. It's definitely not good. I didn't like it, but it might, weirdly enough, be my favorite Saw movie, or at least maybe like second to the first one. But
oh boy.
But I think like a large part of it though is that it didn't have the like storyline I still thought like all the detective stuff, I still wasn't that interested in. But I thought the storyline with the author guy actually wasn't a bad idea, and there are a couple okay traps. Like again, I really liked the trap in the beginning, and overall, I don't think it looked or was filmed as annoying as the other movies we mentioned. Like it didn't have that same kind of look and direction, or at least not to the degree of the previous.
Not to the same extremes. There was some of the color stuff. Funnily enough, there's a scene where Jill, Jigsaw's wife, has a nightmare that Hoffman's coming after.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably my favorite kill in the movie. Actually, is he's got this little train thing that he just like drives into her, and she basically just explodes, and there's just this explosion of blood, and there's hanging arms and stuff, and I'm like, no, I like that. And then she wakes up. But that scene like had this really weird orange glow to it, which is like, okay, this is obviously a dream or something, because the movie doesn't look like this typically.
Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to say that like I don't want to make it seem like I love this movie or anything, but compared to the other movies, I was mildly more entertained and a little less annoyed than usual.
I don't know.
It also might be Stockholm syndrome a little bit.
Yeah. So, here's some of my main problems. So we have this main investigator who's doing the investigating for the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And he's from IA because Jill Tuck implicates Hoffman as the Jigsaw that he's after, and he has a history with him. We get this really stupid flashback of like how Hoffman saved him this one time and shot a hobo, and
yeah, I feel like they make that seem like it's supposed to be a big heroic moment, but it kind of just seems like, oh, you brutally murdered someone when you probably could have very easily like incapacitated him.
Oh yeah, the guy that already dropped the gun, he was unarmed when he got shot. It was just complete brutality. And so, but this is the thing, is they retcon this idea is that he's got this weird relationship with this other detective, this IA investigator. Mm-hmm. And here's the problem though, this IA investigator might be the worst actor this franchise has ever had. And that is saying something. He constantly sounds like he's trying to be the tough, I'm a agent, I'll give orders, and I want those fingerprints ASAP. No one gets in unless it's my authority. And every single time he sounds like a young boy in big man clothes trying to sound like he's the big man, and it just sounds awful, and he sounds bad.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to describe him. Like something fell off. Like I just couldn't. Like he always seemed angry. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't really have a lot of like range.
It was constantly. It was overacting constantly, and like you say, not even in a range way. Just like no, he's this type of overacting constant. So there was 2 times in the movie where I genuinely laughed out loud, which is I've not really done that in this series before now, so I'll give it that. The first one was Jigsaw with the cap on backwards, because he's never dressed like that, and it really cracked me up. Mm-hmm. And then the second time is when they have Jill in the safe house, and he assures her, he's like, no, this is a safe house. It's in the name. Safe house, right? And then he goes into the next room with the other agents, and like, hey, Hoffman sent this to the address. He knows she's here. And he's like, God damn it, son of a bitch. And I laughed so hard. It was I don't think it was meant to be a joke, but it really made me laugh that he just got through telling her it's a safe house. Don't be stupid, it's called a safe house. Walks out into the next room, he knows we're here. Damn it, son of a bitch.
There was actually I completely forgot about that until you brought it up, but yeah, it was really weird like how many times he mentioned it. And I think there's I forget if it was the same scene or a little later, but there's like another word that he just weirdly said like a large number of times that just felt unnatural. Like to the point where it seems like, oh, this like feels like, I don't know, like Room Troll 2, like so bad it's crazy kind of dialogue where like people don't really talk like that.
It felt like at times he was trying to do his best like angry Christian Bale impression and just failing miserably, and he just sounded like he was doing a bad impression. It was just it was awful.
Yeah, and you also brought up again when Jigsaw goes to see the author guy to get his book signed. Again, it's another one of those things where we kind of mentioned a similar scene in our Curse of Chucky review, but I guess it's not as bad as this, but you have a guy that's like being so creepy, and then like the other character is just not even like acknowledging it at all.
Oh yeah, Jigsaw in this scene, he is so unsubtle where he's like, Ancient Egyptians, when they lied, they'd have to offer themselves to the pit to be killed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
He's like, nope, don't really get it. So who do you want me to sign this to? And then he leaves by taking off the cover of his book and giving it back to the guy and saying, like, something like, "Oh, nice picture. I don't need it though. We've met before." And it's like, you don't you have like publicists and like security and stuff there. Like, you wouldn't be like, "Hey, I think there's something up with this guy. Should we maybe keep an eye on him at the least?"
I almost wanted him at the end of the scene, as he took the slipcover off the dust jacket off the book. Slipcovers for Blu-rays and DVDs. I just used the wrong thing. I almost wanted him to lean in just as he was walking away and go, "Sometime we'll have to play a game," and then just walk off. Just have him sitting there like,
He didn't.
that was creepy. Yeah. I had to do that.
I think about it now.
I felt bad there when I quoted like half of his thing, and I didn't do the voice. I just did my own accent. I felt bad because I've been doing his voice throughout all these reviews. I feel like I should keep that up a little bit. It's not like he's got a lot in this movie to quote. I mean, he's only in like 2 scenes. So the lead detective guy is really, really bad. And here's the thing, right? So in Saw 4, which is like the worst movie in the series, don't get me wrong, but at least when it's like leading the detective on this like, game of cat and mouse, and eventually it all comes down to this moment where it was all a trap and he's like in this trap and he dies. It's this big climactic moment. It's all been building up to it. The lead investigator in this gets lured into a room where he's just shot by a gun that's a turret.
Yeah.
It's not a big moment. It's part of the build up to what is actually Hoffman, who swapped out with one of the corpses to get into the station so he could get in there, murder every single agent in sight, and then get to Jill Tuck and kill her with the head trap. And you know what? I'll give them a little bit of credit here, right? Because we've never actually seen that head trap properly go off. Because in the first movie, Amanda gets it off. And in the last movie, he managed to get it off. So it's actually kind of poetic that in the final movie, we do actually get to finally see it just go and open their face up.
Yeah.
So Jill gets her face opened up, and that's a thing. And it's
open
fine.
face Jill sandwich.
Open face Jill sandwich, very good. And yeah, so he goes through the police station like a Terminator, just killing people left and right, and it's whatever. Right, literally like a Terminator. That happened in the Terminator.
Yeah.
He went to a police station doing that. And he gets back to the base. He burns all his ID cards and stuff, and he's taking some money and stuff. He's obviously going on the run. He's finished Jigsaw's master plan. This was his final game that he needed to do. Was this book, this author. And then he's attacked by 3 people in Jigsaw outfits. And of course, we had the scene at the group, the support group, where Dr. Gordon showed up with his cane, and he's like kind of goaded him a little bit. He's like, you're a survivor. You can tell he knows he's lying, but quite quickly you see the walking stick, so you know it's him, and he pulls off the mask, and he's like, so it starts cutting back. And so it's funny, actually, there was a point in this movie, because at one point the author, he has numbers in the back of his teeth, and he has to pull them out, and I'm like, how did he get the numbers there? This is stupid. Now, this doesn't quite answer that specific one, but it did lead me to think, well, we've seen Jigsaw has a very mechanical expertise, but how does it, all the medical things, he puts keys in places that shouldn't have, in like stomachs and stuff, and like, how would he be able to do that? That question did actually pop up in my head throughout this movie, and sure enough, the ending actually answered it. So, the big twist at the end of this is that Lawrence Gordon, after the end of the first movie, Jigsaw patched him up, he found him, properly treated his wounds, congratulated
It's actually kind of a sweet scene, seeing Jigsaw take care of him.
He's like, yeah, you survived, Dr. Gordon. And then, so you see that there was a final tape that we see Jill posted in like the last movie or whatever, maybe the 5th movie. And
Who knows?
it was for Gordon. It was like, Dr. Gordon, you have been, I couldn't have achieved everything I've done over the past year without you. And it cuts back to all these various like medical parts of the traps where, the eyes were sewn shut, or there was a key in a stomach, or there was this or was that. The idea that he's been doing all that stuff, and he's been the other accomplice this entire time. The idea that, much like Amanda, because he survived the thing, he actually learned his lesson and he appreciated life and he became a new ally for Jigsaw. And I'll give them credit for a twist for the final movie in the series, which shouldn't have been number 7, it should have been like 3, but
Yeah.
it's not actually the worst idea ever. Like, as far as what they could have done to end this was probably the best thing they could have come up with.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to praise it too much, but this is probably the one I enjoyed the most. I mean, aside from like maybe the first one, this one actually, again, not great, but I was a little more interested than I usually was, and a little less annoyed than I usually was.
He takes Hoffman to the bathroom. We go back to the bathroom for the first movie, and his old foot's still sitting there, and as are some of the other corpses. And he leaves him chained up at the end of the first movie, and it's Dr. Gordon this time who says "game over," and he shuts the door. So in terms of having the symmetry, having the whole come back full circle, you know what? Yeah, for ways to think of how to end this convoluted mess of a series, this is probably the best thing they could have done.
Yeah. And now, I forget if we mentioned it in any other episodes, because I think we've come back to this room before, but I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard that after the first movie, they basically dismantled or got rid of the set or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this room, for any future movies, they actually ended up using the set from one of the Scary movies that basically was spoofing Jigsaw or whatever. They basically rebuilt the set, and then future Saw movies ended up using it because they got rid of theirs. I'm not sure if that's true, but I think I heard that somewhere.
Trustworthy facts from Tim. Not sure if this is true, but I heard this somewhere.
I thought it was kind of interesting.
It's amusing. If it's true, it's amusing. So no, I mean, for a ways to end it, okay, this is not the worst thing ever. I still hated this movie though. I was still bored. I was still wanted it to end. I wasn't into it. It did make me laugh a few times though, which I hadn't done before now, and I do at least kind of like the ending. But that's about it.
Yeah, I would say there was a few parts in it that weren't terrible, and again, going back to that opening scene, I actually kind of like that, and I was a little disappointed because I thought they were gonna do something that was gonna be oh, Jigsaw's going public, and a lot of the traps you're gonna see more in open spaces that you wouldn't think before, and then they kind of abandoned that. But I thought that would have been a little more interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the main game. I felt like it was just a sort of rehash of previous, especially right after 6, where it was kind of the same thing, where he was going through all the different rooms and trying to save people. It just felt really similar to me. And it had a lot of the usual problems, and then you had the really bad acting. They seemed, because I feel like the movies recently have been bringing back things from previous movies so much that having the main character who's investigating them in this one be this new guy who's just kind of random felt a bit weird. It's also really funny how when they retcon the Gordon stuff back in, they make it so that he's the one who wrote to Hoffman saying, "I know who you are," which was the 5th movie. That was 2 movies ago.
Jesus.
And that's the kind of thing where I don't know if they'd planned that or if it was just really kind of oh, we left that kind of open where it could be anyone who wrote that, so we'll have it be him, because why not?
I can't remember anything past the one we just watched.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I mean, as far as these movies go, I guess it's kind of on par with the better ones, if you can even say that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to sound like I liked it or anything to a degree. It was still a Saw movie that I did not enjoy, but liked it slightly better than most of the other ones we watched. And maybe also was a little bit of relief just knowing that, all right, this is the last one.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, knowing it's the last one.
At least for now.
Yeah, I think that's partially true. It almost annoys me there's another one now, because this ending, as much as I didn't like the movie that much, at least the ending I thought was probably the best way they could have ended it. So now I'm like, okay, what's the new one going to be? Like,
Oh boy.
because I mean, Hoffman's dead now.
Well, I mean, you don't really have a shortage of Jigsaws running around, I guess.
I guess it's Gordon. Gordon's the one. And who's his helpers, by the way? He's got two cronies with him who help, like, grab Hoffman. Who are those two?
Some of the other survivors and
I guess. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, so I guess we get to ratings. You like this more than I did. I'm not as positive because I think the main actor was so terrible, and I thought the game was pish. And it still had some of the problems that it had before. It wasn't that much of an improvement, but I'll give the ending a little bit of credit for being probably the best way it could have wrapped up this convoluted mess. And opening game is okay, and it made me laugh a couple of times. So 4 out of 10 for me.
yeah, that's funny. That's pretty much where I'm landing. Because again, still not a good movie, but I feel like every other movie for me has been like 2, 3, 3.5, and this one just sticks out a little bit more so I want to give it a little bit of credit. And again, not the worst, but at least I could find a few bright spots of enjoyment, whereas the other ones are just like bleak, like blobs that I just can't wait to forget. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for me as well.
Well, here's looking forward to Jigsaw and seeing how they bring him back and whatever else. I will say, it at least looks like the new one has a bit more levity in it.
Yeah.
Because there's a joke at the end of the trailer.
So, I mean, yeah, I'll be fine if it's, a little bit more fun. Maybe this kind of storyline is all done.
Yeah, this is the thing. Because we hate this series so much, Jigsaw for us could actually very easily be the best one.
Yeah.
It really could be. So it'll be interesting getting and seeing how it shapes up. But yeah, we rated, or we didn't rate, but we did rate, but we ranked all the Texas Chainsaws. I don't think we can rank these. I feel like they all kind of, like 4's definitely last.
Yeah, they blur together so much for me. It'd be like, yeah, I'd probably say like the first one, and then honestly, this one would probably be my second favorite. But after that, I can barely remember which one was which.
I feel like 1, 2, then 7, then 5. And then there's a sort of like a line, because then under that it's like the real terrible ones. It's like 3, 6, and then 4 is definitely at the bottom. Like 4 is oofed. I hate 4 so much.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And since I'll never get to complain about it again, but do you remember in 4 where that stupid FBI agent leaned into the trap?
Oh, right.
She hears me something mechanical, and it's like, oh, this guy who's known for making death traps with his bare hands, I'm going to lean into this and find out. Oh no, I've been hit in the face with shrapnel. Oh my, whoa. Who could have seen that coming? Everyone could, you dumb bitch.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I got that out of my system one last time. So that has been the Saw franchise. Thank God it's over. I mean, we have the new one, but out of the 7 pre-existing ones, we're done. List checked off, finished, good, bye-bye. Want nothing more to do with it.
And that's it for our big franchises for now. So we'll be doing the new ones next month, but
that's true. That said, there may be 1 or 2 franchises beginning in October.
Ooh, interesting.
I will leave that tease there, and I'll just say that they won't be as quickly done as these, because these had deadlines for the new movies coming out, whereas the ones we're starting next month, we can do just 1 a month and not have to worry about it too much, because we have as much time as we want. But yeah, so that has been Saw 7, or Saw the Final Chapter, or whatever you'd like that. And this is the thing, much like Friday the 13th, the final chapter, this is now a lie, because we have a new chapter, In fact, I'm almost surprised the new one wasn't called Saw: The New Beginning.
Yeah, it's probably, if you're doing a horror franchises, you might as well play it safe and just not call anything final, the end, blank's dead.
Yeah, all those things. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, Jason Goes to Hell, Final Chapter, all these titles, complete and utter lies. So,
Unless like you do it and then you put like ... for now.
Sure, that's an awkward title though. There you go. That has been Saw 7. Yeah. So before we do the usual outro stuff, for the final time, because this will be the last episode before October. Coming October, you probably don't have enough time to really do any of the votes, but we do have two Patreon votes, which are on the $5 tier and up. We have a public vote, which you can get the link for in the description down below, just in case you do happen to see this just in time before the end of September. And we have 4 episodes a week coming in October, at least, maybe some extras as well on top of that. We have a top 100 horror movies from each of us coming, split into 4 chunks over the month. We got all that coming. A new special thing that we're teasing, but we can't tell you about just yet. You'll find out about that soon. All these things, lots and lots of fun stuff for October, for the Octoberthon, as we call it. So look forward to that. But yeah, so you can get us on Patreon at patreon.com/MaileOfUsTV if you want to support us over there and get access to some extra stuff. You can get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz. You can like, subscribe, you can comment down below, let us know what you thought of the movie, the franchise, and so on and so forth. Really cool stuff. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching. I am very tired. Because it's been a long day, because this was a Saw review, I'm done. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to slumber for as long as possible. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time.